Aron from São Paulo, Brazil, and I have been collaborating with Full Sail's Creativity Marathon since its beginning in 2018. My idea is to give an overview of what's happening and why we should care about Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030, and this whole idea of building a sustainable and better future for us all. So the first thing we have to bear in mind is that everybody thinks about saving the planet when you talk about sustainability. And the idea is not to save the planet, because the planet actually doesn't depend on us. It has been here for a long, long time and will remain here long after we have gone as a species, the human beings. There have been great extinctions over the last millions of years, and even the worst thing we can do won't actually end the planet. What will end, indeed, is the way we can live, is the environment we need to sustain our own life. And so it's about saving the conditions that we, the humans, and other species that we depend on and that have a right to live as us, should remain here for many, many, many generations onwards. What's happening is that we have been eroding Earth's capacity to keep on going and to keep replenishing the resources we need for our survival. This has been measured by the ecological footprint, the Earth footprint. It's a measure that has been created recently that allows people to measure and to understand how much resources of Earth we use to keep our way of living, so to have the resources we need to our way of life. And what's happening is that when I was born in the early 60s, we were using as humanity only 70% of Earth's capacity. So every year, Earth will produce 1.5 times what we need to our living as human beings in the way we used to live by that time. But that time, we are only 3 billion people. Now we are more than 7 billion, and it's expected that in the coming decades, the last few decades, we are going to something like 10 to 12 billion people in the planet. So if we keep on consuming the way we are consuming and producing and creating impact over Earth, the way we have been doing in the last decades or the last 2 centuries, let's say, that's the great increase in the impact that human activity has creating on Earth, this will not be sustainable. It will not be able to sustain us. So the thing is that we have to revert the tendency that Earth has to decline the capacity of replenishing the resources. If we go the way we are doing, in let's say 20 years, 30 years from now, we are going to need something like 3 times what the planet can produce. Now we are using more than 1.5 times. So we have to curb this line. We have to go in a way that in the next few decades we will be again in balance with Earth's carrying capacity. So that's the challenge, to put humanity back in a way that we can live on Earth resources without eroding it year after year. So what happens now is that we have different agendas for humankind. We have, and that's a very important thing, to improve the quality of life of many people throughout the world. There are many billions of people living in poverty now, but at the same time, we have people that enjoy a good standard of living that want to decrease their impact while keeping a good standard of living. So, as you can see in this graph, we have one horizontal line where we measure the quality of life. It's the Humanity Sustainability Index that has been created by the United Nations, and this has a threshold about the good quality of life. And in the vertical line in this graph, we also have the footprint, the impact that humanity has on Earth, and it also has a threshold. So the place everybody should be in the world is in this corner here, where within the 2 thresholds, the threshold of quality of life and the threshold of Earth carrying capacity. As you can see, the poor countries have to move to the right, so they will not increase their impact and they will have a much better quality of life. And on the other hand, the wealthy countries should decrease their impact while keeping a good standard of life. So these are converging agendas, although they are different. And that's very important. So we are not talking about different agendas in the sense of the objective. We are talking about bringing everybody to good quality of life in a short period of time. And the good news is that we have been successful in doing that, although we still have many problems. As you can see in these other graphs, where the bubble size represents part of the humanity and the big bubble is the whole humanity, you can see that in the last 25 years we have moved in this direction with a lot of people and making much better conditions. So, what's next then? It's how we are moving our plans and how we are moving forward everybody together. That's why United Nations has produced under the last, let's say, 45, 50 years, since the 70s, a number of agreements about how we can put people living together and in good quality of life in a single world, in a single earth. That's the same earth for everyone. We have been building as a species, and I have been following that very closely since the 90s at least, or the 80s, in a way that we could really pull together a number of directives and a number of ideas that can really make we live a good living. So the final result of that, the most recent result of this, is Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. So as you can see here, we have one base document that should be read. It's a very interesting document, although it's a bit of bureaucratic language, but it's really interesting about the content that's there. And we also have this set of 17 goals that are shown here in these little boxes, but they should be integrated. And these also are somehow combined in this 5 P's about people, planet, prosperity, and peace and partnerships. So these are the 5 P's which will be working in different aspects throughout this marathon. And now going to the specific sustainable development goals, to this set of 17 goals. What's the important bit here is that they should not be taken as isolated. When you read the Agenda 2030 introduction, it's very clear explaining that there are a number of things that should be taken into account when thinking about sustainable development goals. They are integrated, they are indivisible, they are interdependent. There is a sense of urgency. We have to change things very quickly, and this is very important. So we have a timeline, we have a big scale to make the change. We should leave no one behind. That's very important as well. So solutions should work for the people that are in poverty now, and they should not be in poverty when we reach the goals. So the idea is to bring people together in good quality of living. So the way to put together and to connect these sustainable development goals and the many issues that are including on them is a story that we tell. So you can tell a story in separated boxes, which is not the good idea, but you also can tell the story, as you can see here, in a whole different way, where we arrange the sustainable development goals in a way that you can see the let's say biocapacity, the physical world, the environment we depend on, and on top of that and within that we have a society, and on top of that and within that we have an economy, and we have this institutional, the partnerships that pull these things together and give this sense of whole. So there are many different ways to tell a story, and telling a story is fundamental because the stories we tell, they shape the future. If we tell ourselves a future that everything is going wrong and that we are going to have a unbearable world to live in a few decades, this is most likely to happen. So the challenge here and the opportunity here is that we can do something where each one of us can really make a difference and can really connect what we do as professionals, as persons, as family members in our life to this broader scene of sustainability, and telling a story that will move more people to a positive way, to looking forward and looking positively to the future, because we can build something that's sustainable, happy, a good place to live where we all would like to be. Good luck.